Welcome to the Accessible Art History YouTube channel. This week, in honor of Halloween, we are going to examine a spooky subject, Etruscan tombs. Although the idea of a tomb is scary in itself, Etruscan tombs contain much more than meets the eye. The Etruscans were an ancient Italian civilization. Predating the Romans, there is evidence for their existence starting around 900 BCE. Over the centuries, they became rich from farming the fertile soil and mining for metal ore. The Etruscans reached their peak of power around the 6th century BCE, which began to decline starting around the 4th century when the Roman-Etruscan Wars started. Eventually, they were absorbed by the more powerful Romans and granted citizenship into the empire. Unfortunately, no written works survive from the Etruscans, so everything we have learned about them has been interpreted from the art they left behind. It is clear that there was an influence of Greek and Near Eastern art. We know that the Etruscans were sailors and traded with these civilizations, so an exchange of artistic ideals would have been a byproduct of this. From their funerary works, we can gather that they were a culture that valued life's pleasures. In today's video, we are going to examine two remarkable Etruscan tombs, the Tomb of the Reliefs and the Tomb of the Triclinium. The first tomb we are going to examine is the Tomb of the Reliefs. This hypogeum, or rock-cut tomb, was made during the peak of Etruscan civilization, the late 4th to early 3rd century BCE. It was discovered in 1847 while archaeologists were excavating a necropolis outside of Chivetri, Italy. The city sits about 45 kilometers northwest of Rome and was a major metropolitan area during the Etruscan period. Once holding over a dozen separate burials, this tomb lives up to its name. The entire interior is filled with low-relief carvings. It was designed to look like a house in the middle of an elaborate banquet. The carvings were also painted with bright colors, giving the room a fun, jovial air. According to an inscribed pillar, this tomb was created for the Mantuanus family. We can tell that this was an elite military family due to the size of the tomb and the armor carved into the walls. Viewers were also reminded of the afterlife. One of the carvings depicts the traditional death symbols of the boatman Charnon and the three-headed dog Cerberus. So what can this tomb tell us about Etruscan culture? As mentioned above, there are no surviving written records, so everything has to be inferred from artistic materials. By creating a banquet inside of the tomb, we are meant to see that death was not a final moment, but a bonding opportunity. It was to be celebrated and used to bring the people left behind closer together. By showing all of this taking place inside a house, it further showed the connection between life and death. The second tomb we are going to be discussing is located in Tarquinia, another Etruscan metropolitan center. The tomb of the Triclinium was discovered in 1830. It was given this name because the frescoes all take place in a three-couch dining room called the Triclinium. The style of room was popular throughout the Mediterranean. It is a chamber tomb cut out of rock. Not only was it meant to hold burials, but also a variety of grave goods. Art historians date it to around 470 BCE, the same period as the Tomb of the Reliefs. One of the most remarkable aspects of this tomb is the sheer happiness that the frescoes convey. There are scenes of dancing figures, musicians playing instruments, and athletes playing games. Although this might seem strange to an outsider, it gives art historians a good idea of how Etruscans understood and dealt with death. By painting a funeral banquet, including both food and entertainment, the Etruscans show that they were not afraid of death. These events were meant to mark the transition from our world to the next, and it was something to be celebrated. In fact, after the celebration concluded, a portion of the meal, including plates, utensils, and cups, would be left behind for the deceased to use in the afterlife. Our worlds were connected and those bonds were fluid. Despite the lack of written records, we can learn a lot about the Etruscans by their tombs. They did not perceive death as dark and dismal. Instead, they used bright colors and depictions of joyous occasions to help process it.